Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tracked Before. This time, clues. Yes, clues on this episode of It's All Been Tracked Before. I'll give you a clue. You know what it is. Patreon.com/IABD. That's not even a clue. I'm just giving you the answer. Go there. Support the network. Support us. Support It's All Been Done Radio Hour as well. And get all those bonus things. And it's very easy to do. Go there. That's a clue. That's a lot of clues. I solved the mystery for you. Kind of like on this episode. Clues on It's All Been Tracked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tracked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. And we are here to talk the episode Clues. First impressions.
It had a lot of things that I liked. I mean, it had the elements of things I typically like in episodes. I'm still not sure how I felt about it overall, but there were certain things that surprised me, and I think it also added some interesting things to, or rather important details to the debates we usually have about what Data should or should not be able to do. And, very much in the same way of, can Vulcans lie, Klingons honor, et cetera, et cetera. So,
sure.
I have similar feelings, Keith. There are aspects I like a lot, but then there's a lot of it leaves me, I don't know if cold's even the right word, just not interested for whatever. But I thought, but it's an episode, like I said, that I should have liked a lot more than I think that I did. Maybe by the time we finish talking about it, I will. But
that's it. I mean, I don't feel excited in retrospect right at this moment, but I feel like when we get into it.
That's the way I felt watching it. But then as I processed it, I was like, I'm the one who complains all the time about having these mysteries. And if you're going to have the reveal, it should be a big reveal. And I thought this one did have a pretty good reveal, even though in some ways, until we find out what happened, I don't think I cared. And that's the weird part. It's like, we watch the other episodes where it's like, I care what the reveal is. And then the reveal is disappointing. This one was like, I didn't care. And then the reveal was like, oh, okay, that is really interesting. And I think that does make it strong and a good sci-fi episode. So
that's a good way of putting it. It's almost the inversion of that effect of where they aren't trying to hook you with something too flashy. Yeah. Other than, no, this is odd.
For half an hour or 24 hours. Who cares? Let's get on with our lives.
Wait a minute. What about this? You
have things to do. Just go do them. Who cares? And I get not. I mean, it sounds like me talking about a hangover. Who knows what I did? Let's get on with everything. But
I would say, except the ending, this episode is probably better put together than last week's, and yet without an Ardra, I just didn't care as much. So
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's a lackluster episode. I think it's going to be towards the lower end, but we'll find out as we break it down here.
Well, and I'm surprised to find it. And again, if you look hard enough, you're going to find most episodes on one list or the other, I guess, over the history of Trek. But one of them had it as one of the top 25 episodes of Trek, and I'm like,
it's okay. Not.
I was hoping to find out from you guys what I missed, because
it's not one of the top 25 episodes of Next Gen, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was one guy.
Even if we're only counting Next Gen that we've seen so far, so the first half of Next Gen, it's not my top 25.
I don't think it would be for me either. But
I don't know. I mean, I could sell it if I had to. I don't know if I could get you to top 25, but I think I can see why someone would think this is a good episode.
I will say.
Yeah,
I am pretty confident right now that it is in my top 25 of this season. out of 26 episodes, I think it's going to make my top 25.
It's a hot take time on It's All Been Tracked Before.
See,
I'm just claiming it's not the worst of the season. So
Jimmy must be up to Jimmy must be up to several thousand hours of acting, because I was hooked through most of that lead in. I was buying it.
Well, I think every hour you spend on stage naked counts as 100 hours.
That'll do it.
I think that's fair.
That counts as 100 hours of clothed acting. So I knocked it all out in that nude show. We see Riker and LaForge and Troy and Worf doing what looks kind of like a chi thing, but then there's some fight moves in it. So I don't know. It's kind of a fun little shot.
I think it's a Klingon, some Klingon discipline. I think I read.
Yeah, even though it's not followed up on at all.
Nope.
They talk about getting extra personal time, and really, I would assume they get quite a bit of personal time on this ship. right?
You would
Or am
think.
I wrong?
Probably. Maybe not as that synchronized off time to that extent where they could do something like that.
Maybe in the 24th century, they only work a 15-hour work week. So now they're getting a 10-hour work week. They get some extra time.
Yeah, because it makes me think maybe I wouldn't want to watch this episode, but we love Data's Day.
Mhm.
I feel like if you're on a starship, even if you're in the Enterprise, there's got to be some boring days where you're just motoring to your next physical. You're going to give some doctor on a planet. But I guess, why would we want to watch that? But I would imagine it happens. So
we got 4 of the leads there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we'll see Picard in a second. Put a pin in that. And
Data's right behind Keith.
Data's the one on the bridge, so he doesn't get to play costume dress up. But I feel like Crusher's the one who really avoided costume dress up because they probably like, you want to do the Tai Chi thing? And she's like, nah, I'm just going to play balls in sick bag because I'm not putting on the kimono, whatever it's called.
The
Gi, yeah.
The gi, that's it. Yeah.
I was going to say that I actually took like a multidisciplinary karate class in college way back when.
Uh-huh.
And it was similar. I mean, you learn katas like that, and there were a lot of Tai Chi elements. But I think that would even encompass the fightier looking moves as well.
Mm-hmm.
So after we get that shot, then we get to the holodeck where Whoopi is Gloria from Cleveland, Guinan, and the Dixon Hill holo novel. It felt so I'm going to blow my alternate episode right now. I was intrigued by her poor reaction to Dixon Hill and how much she did not get it. So I wanted to see them do a Dixon Hill story. And I really thought that's where they were going.
Yeah.
Because first of all, this episode is called Clues. And second of all, I had the action figure set they put out of Picard and Guinan as Gloria and Dixon Hill. It's a double pack. It's a double pack, and it came from this one little scene. I'm so disappointed.
As red herrings go, this was a good one because when it was Dixon Hill, I'm like, but then when Guinan showed up, I'm like, yeah. And I was like you, Jimmy. I'm like, I'll all right. Now I'm in this universe. Now I'm interested.
Yes.
Now you got me. Very quickly, and this was even before this part when Guinan shows her garter. I couldn't find a garter double listed on Memory Alpha, so I gotta assume it's Whoopi.
That's all Whoopi. Leg. I would assume so. I never even thought to think of a double.
I continue, because it was such a close shot. Whenever I see a close shot of a body part, I'm like, that must be a double. But
would they really credit everybody in that way, though? I mean, I don't know if
not necessarily, but
I
tell you, if that would have been my leg, I'd want credit for it.
This is before IMDb, though.
It was also besides Whoopi Guinan's reaction to going in the holodeck, which was great. We also saw maybe a more enthusiastic Picard than we've seen in previous holodeck episodes. Like he was so into it.
Yeah.
And sharing it with her, his old time friend. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see that.
It was one of the only 3 notes I even took for this episode was, oh my God, the dialect attempts. There was just so much fun. I don't know how have we seen Patrick Stewart do American accents and things?
Occasionally.
I had the same thought because did he do any of that accent stuff last time he was Dixon Hill?
No, but I'm just saying, like in his career, I'm trying to think if I've seen him do anything with an American accent because it felt like it was almost intentionally bad what he was doing there, but it could also just be he doesn't have to do it,
I almost think maybe this points to some of our issues with the episode in the sense that it starts out with all these we're seeing these characters we love doing these things we want to see them do. I know that the Tai Chi maybe not so much, but at least it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe we'll hear more about that. And then, Dixon Hill, hey, there's a guy. And then the rest of the episode is very, lack of a better term, clinical. I mean, it's Data, which doesn't mean there's no emotion or any feeling, and stuff does happen, obviously, but maybe because antiseptic, I don't know. That's both those terms are overstating where it goes because it does actually get into a good mystery or whatever, like I said, but maybe that is part of it, why we're left a little cold.
So Data calls Picard on the phone within the holodeck, which I thought was kind of fun. Maybe not necessary, but fun. And then we go back up, and we've got our new regular at the con, Ensign McKnight.
Oh, yeah.
The one who replaced Wesley, maybe?
Yeah, she's in a few episodes. I mean, speaking of people that are in a few episodes, this episode featured the second of 16 appearances of Nurse Alyssa Agawa, who I love.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're on the bridge, and everybody goes unconscious for 30 seconds. Crusher's call to the bridge when they first wake up felt weird. She was basically like, I can't remember the exact words she was saying, but just like, what happened? And I don't know. It just did not feel in character.
Are you guys as messed up as I am?
Did anybody get the number of that bus?
I was glad they chose to put O'Brien in sickbay with Crusher and Agawa, although I really wanted him to talk about kayaking or something, is how he hurt us. Obviously, we already did kayaking. I wanted it to be another adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Funny.
The green thumb was a good lead-in to, I guess, the botanical mystery.
I mean, that could have easily been Keiko instead of Crusher because it was a botanical mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the Alyssa interaction, felt awkward to me in some way that I can't put my finger on or really quantify. I'm wondering if that struck you as odd too. Just the way that they kind of drew out that almost made it feel like an accusation of some sort that that Beverly was making. Do you remember what I'm talking? The whole thing.
Yeah, when
like,
she asked,
"Did you see anybody
around? Did you see anybody around my office
like
or whatever?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would never, touch one of your experiments.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the other time we saw Nurse Agawa was in like Riker's hallucination. So this was the first real time we see Nurse Agawa. We haven't really learned what her relationship is with Crusher, but I feel like going forward, it seems pretty professional.
Mm-hmm.
While we're on Crusher, I noted that she has a cold in this episode, which Gates McFadden has a cold. Her voice
I didn't notice.
Sounds rough and deeper. So I always presume they have colds. It's especially problematic here because I'm always fascinated on shows where you can tell the actor has a cold because Shatner does at least one of the originals, maybe a couple of them. You can tell he's got something going on. I mean, his voice is just different, and it's not recognized. And obviously, here in a universe where the common cold has been eliminated, makes it a little more problematic. I mean, there's other things that can do that stuff to your voice, but
it's a space common cold.
I guess it doesn't have to be recognized in other shows. It wouldn't make sense because like if we ran into each other or if we saw each other every day, we wouldn't be like, still got that cold? It would just be like, So it makes sense that people don't acknowledge it all the time because I think it's only acknowledged in TV or whatever when they make the person over the top like, oh my God, I have such a cold, as opposed to what's going on with these actors or whatever. But it just stuck out to me. So.
Something I feel like I should notice more often than I do, honestly, since you bring that up.
Yeah, I'll start cataloging whenever I see it.
So Picard, as they start to figure out that there's a mystery, very obviously gets Data out of the room. Are we supposed to believe Data doesn't realize that at this point?
Yeah, I bought it. I mean,
really?
I would think that he would be grateful for the opportunity to get out of the room and not have to keep explaining things. Honestly,
I guess, but he also has a vested interest in making sure that they don't figure it out. And by Picard saying, Data, leave the room, so obviously the rest of us are going to stay here, it's like, oh crap, they're on to me.
It's possible, but at the time, it didn't feel, it felt like stage obvious, like in the way that you're supposed to tip the audience off to maybe he is letting you know that he's doing that for a reason. Because the way they were lingering on his face and showing some cues, I don't think that Data would have caught that as he was getting up to comply with the order.
All I'll say is it would have been great if when Data left, we saw him in the hall with a glass against the wall. Geordi said that their beards didn't grow was one of the things that didn't make sense.
Why do you think that?
Like, does his facial hair grow that much in a day?
Mine does.
Oh, mine doesn't. So maybe I'm just betraying my own.
if they had just shaved before they got knocked out, I would notice.
Yeah,
Or not.
maybe. Picard asks Beverly to join him in engineering, and rather than saying okay or on my way, she just nods, and I'm like, he can't see her nod, Beverly. I really wanted the scene to hang on a bit longer. He goes, did you hear me? Are you coming? Picard is a bit harsh concerning Data here.
Like at what point in the episode and in what way?
This is when he first has Beverly join him in engineering. So by this point, they figured out there's a mystery and they suspect Data's connected to it. But he just seems to have no sympathy. It's almost like he's talking about Data as a broken object that needs to be repaired and doesn't want to talk to Data or involve Data in any decision-making. That is not how Picard usually treats Data, so it feels off to me.
Well,
Yeah,
this could be another one of those writing issues, but I'm sure we'll get to that eventually.
And I will say that Data is the one doing what I kind of talked about at the beginning of the episode, where he's like, well, I can't tell you. And then it's like, and again, I think the payoff here is worth it, even though that whole mechanism is always annoying to me. Like, well, I'd love to tell you, but I can't. And it's like, what?
It comes across differently through the voice of an android, or through the perception of it being an android, because it could legitimately be something where maybe it was a malfunction. Maybe this wormhole did something strange, and he's like, maybe somebody, part of the mystery, once you realize that there is a mystery.
Well,
my
right.
thought was,
I didn't do it right. It should have been, I can't tell you. I'd love to, but I cannot. So then it's clear.
But see, to your point, Keith, I would still expect Picard to act like a concerned friend.
Well, yeah.
You know, like they do when something's wrong with Troy.
And I mean, they don't think it's lore or that he went rogue or dark or anything. There's got to be some logical reason for him to not be like, I can't tell you. Okay, there must be some logical reason.
Well, or what I was saying is they were at the point where, so they'd already reached the point where they were noticing things that were off with the computing systems, some other things that weren't quite lining up. My theory at the time watching it, because I don't recall or hadn't recalled this episode, was that something could have affected him. Somebody could have reprogrammed him in some way. We've seen episodes in the past where they can see how dangerous he could potentially be if something were that wrong. And I would be a little fearful. I mean, concerned, yes, but you would be like,
well, then why not shut him down immediately?
But
why?
How do you?
Because wasn't Brothers the episode where he was like, I gotta go here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
why not immediately put him in a cell and question him?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then melt him down for parts. No.
The problem is he was also their best asset as far as they knew for examining things like this. Right. So it's like, what do you do? He's the way you're examining them, and that came into play as him being one of his ability to misdirect them a lot of the time.
But I feel like they didn't have him working on the problem. I feel like they just kept giving him busy work to keep him distracted. Even that thing, they're like, we need you to go fix this thing in engineering, and he's like, sure, I'll be delighted to. And then Geordi's like, okay, you can go back up now. I'll take over this. And it's just like, okay, you're just keeping him busy and distracted.
All right, but my point about the specific earlier question of the idea of him saying I can't do that, that would be a plausible way for him to react if something that wasn't his fault were happening to him, and who would really have the expertise to determine if that weren't the case, other than to ask him questions until they could corner him into some sort of logical thing where you go, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, so why weren't they doing that?
They eventually got there.
But not for a long, long time.
Of course not. How would you? I mean, it was through. You had to like tread a fine line to not raise his suspicions about their suspicions, and to also get useful information from him potentially, and then also get to a point where where Picard was ready to say, I have enough information to back me up to say I'm ready to confront you. You were being deceptive. How do you respond to that? And then,
but just last week, Picard comes up with a theory and immediately jumps on it and doesn't take time to investigate.
That's not his.
It at all.
So this is that's the inconsistent writing, though. That's what happens when you have all these different people, fingers and ties and so on.
You asked about the writing. Story by and teleplay by Bruce D. Arthurs. This is his only IMDb credit for anything. He shares teleplay by credit with Joe Menosky, who's one of the regular writers for Next Gen, DS9, Voyager. This is only, he's an executive story editor. This is only Joe's second episode. He's got a teleplay by credit. The first being the one where we met Tasha Yar's sister earlier in the season.
Sorry, I thought I'd turn off the mic before I did that, but it was like I tapped it back on, like right into it. Sorry.
Another thing I hated, a character that acted like a jerk, is Geordi comes up on the bridge to talk to Picard, and Troy's standing right there, and he's basically like, okay, get out of here. I need to talk to Picard. Like, dismisses her completely instead of just like, why can't Troy hear? Why do you have to be rude about it?
Right. Yeah, and why not just say, hey, Captain, can I talk to you over here? Rather than, can you leave? Yeah.
Well, then Worf escorts Troy back to her quarters.
Yeah. This is
which
another
felt
part.
Weird and sexist.
It did, and she goes in and he chuckles, and I was like, 1, 2, scream. I knew it was coming. It was like, it was just.
But as soon as I heard the scream, I'm like, what happens when Riker comes over to her quarters?
Right.
Those walls need to be better soundproofed.
Yeah. Yeah. But
and you'd think they would be. You'd think they would be, honestly.
Well, that's. Are we getting into like some of the gun smoke issues? The idea of having
where there's smoke, there's fire. There's not fire.
The TOS gun smoke issues. The idea of having a script that is written for something but being adapted to a different purpose that doesn't always translate when you get to some of the little fine details.
Gotcha.
Or conventional transitions, conventional tropes to move the action along.
I didn't understand why Troy didn't see her think it was herself in the mirror. Is that alien like still hanging out in her brain and watching what's going on?
Yeah. Is that ever developed any further?
No.
Not to the extent that they explain it. I mean, I could, if I think about it hard enough right now, I could probably come up with something, but it's just, it doesn't, they don't tie it up and say, this is why she felt that way. It was just like one of those things they kind of threw in there to make a feeling or make a nice sounding line.
Well, because she kept getting headaches, right? Wasn't this another episode where her headaches are killing her?
And everybody ignored her and just took her back to her room.
Right. They were. Is it because they were blocking her being able to sense them?
This was like season 2 Troy. This was not developed Troy. Early season 2 Troy. I think we've seen this before, but I really noticed the lush green carpet in Data's room this episode. Did you see that?
No.
In Data's quarters, big, thick, plush green carpet on the floor. Data essentially admits he's protecting the crew by lying, and he's willing to lose his rank and himself and be disassembled to save their lives. I feel like at that point, Picard has to figure out more than he figures out. Like, the fact that Data's willing to sacrifice means this is something serious and it's not just Data being obstinate.
Why doesn't Data just get them the hell out of there so that they can't get blown up?
What do you mean? Do you mean like the brothers style forceful? I'm just gonna take control of the ship and just go, or
so were the Paxton's gonna blow them up no matter what? Or the Paxtons are gonna blow them up? Wait, the Paxtons are gonna blow up their planet, right? Was the
no? It's that they had left a certain area of space so that they were not close enough to the planet to make the Paxtons suspicious or worried about it. But Picard, they started picking at the mystery so much, I think they started returning to the area, which tipped the Paxtons off to them not having been convinced.
I wrote down that the Paxtons are the Rosa Diaz of the galaxy. It's like, you've found my planet. I have to blow you up now.
Yeah.
There's no in between. So the Paxtons just really value privacy. They're those people who always had an unlisted phone number. I guess they're even more like
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson, who, they're like, I just got this email how do they know my address? Look at Google Maps, and he throws a computer in the dumpster or whatever. He wants to be that private.
Why was Worf's wrist hurting if they already healed it in sickbay? Was Beverly that bad at her job that day?
That's an interesting question as far as, again, how does tech work? How do bodies work? How soon can you people wear casts for a reason. Sometimes they keep the weight off it for a reason for a while. If you don't know that it's injured and you do something that you normally wouldn't.
Did he go play tennis on the holodeck?
Yeah, but still. I mean, we see the way they heal him. It seems so much quicker. I can't believe it's still hurting if she... I wouldn't think it would normally still be hurting. The wormhole itself was a ruse, which I admit I did not see coming.
I didn't either, and I kind of... That's an aspect I kind of like, is that they were like, there was no wormhole. You know, because at first it's like, oh, it's another wormhole, which, I don't know. Maybe this is a blind spot for me in science, too. I don't know. Are there a bunch of wormholes out there in the galaxy?
When Troy was possessed, it sounded like Ilea from the motion picture.
Yeah. I liked her deep voice, but yeah, that's a good call. That is...
like almost exactly like Ilea.
Mm-hmm.
Picard ordered Data to lie, so I guess Data's not a Vulcan.
There's the loophole, though. One of the few notes I have there was that this was an elegant demonstration of Data's capacity for deception if he has to do it. Mm-hmm. And I guess the loophole there, of course, is that he had to for these reasons. He was ordered to do it, so what technically wasn't lying in a way. And there were some skillful misdirections on his part. Mm-hmm. And even when asked a direct question, he wasn't really lying. He was truthfully saying, I'm unable to say that, just not volunteering the reasons why he couldn't do it.
Until he spilled all his guts. I guess when he saw the alien come back possessing Troy, that negated his promise to Picard. That was one of the weak points. Yeah. And that I started trying to think through that too. I mean, it made sense in certain ways, but the Picard really didn't make sense to this episode. The what? The ending? The whole ending here did not make sense in this episode. I've got more that doesn't make sense, but that's part of what I'm saying that makes sense. Some of that, I think it amused me in a way that made up for whatever. I don't know. I liked the idea that the aliens were willing to give them another chance. Just the way that they. I think the problem with a lot of these kinds of they use the term xenophobia too to describe the aliens. The problem with a lot of these things is they seem almost impossibly irrational after a certain point. And I liked the idea that these aliens could have seen the effort involved with what was happening, that the people did seem well-meaning enough to the point where, you know what, why do we have to kill them right now? Why is there this reason? You know, there's not like a hard-written law where we have to do this. You know, I'm going to take it under my own authority and say, let's give them another shot. Well, actually, the Paxtons figured out how to knock Data out too, so they're just going to knock everybody out. Was that your alternate episode? No, my alternate episode is it's a Groundhog Day thing, so it keeps coming back around, and eventually Data's like, "Oh, here's what happened." They're like, "Ah, crap!" And then the Paxtons knock them all out, and he goes through it over and over, and then eventually the Paxtons fall in love with Troy or all the humans on the ship. And they go down and watch the groundhog come out and see its shadow. So that is my alternate episode. In this scenario, I know it happened before they all went through the wormhole and got knocked out, but do we get to see Guinan as Gloria every time? Because that would make it worth it to me. Yep. That was my only fashion note we didn't cover was Gloria. I loved it with the fur and everything. Loved it all. Yeah, I just assumed we all loved it. My other one is Troy's nightgown. Yeah, it wasn't anything fancy, but it was functional and, you know, she looked good. To the Dixon Hill scene, this is the third and final time we see Rhonda Aldrich as Madeline, Dixon Hill's secretary. Oh, yeah. I'm disappointed because we see Dixon Hill again, but we never see her again. Oh. Something that Stephen was mentioning toward the beginning. And I think this is one of the reasons why I like the ending, actually. It demonstrates why this mystery is a little different than others. And I like the idea that it's some little thing, some little thread that if you pull on, they didn't try too hard at the beginning to make this something that blows your socks off. Is like, oh my God, what is going? Oh, this is so weird. Oh, it's just like, that's a strange thing. They could have just as easily gone whatever and just kept going, but some little thing snowballed into something much bigger. And I like the way that happened. So Keith, are you saying a mystery is irresistible to humans? It can be, and that's maybe an overstatement or an over top way of putting it, or melodramatic, I guess, way of putting it. But I like the way that they showed that could happen, and just enough at the end to go like, it was that close. They were that close to doing it again, but it's like, whatever. I did appreciate. I'm pretty sure this is the first time Star Trek has ever shown a flashback. where we saw the flashback to Data the first time they all went unconscious. Because we've had other episodes where we talked about a flashback would have been great, but they don't do flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
This is the first time. And then in the flashback, though, Picard figured out the solution super quick. Like, he immediately gave up, said, oh, we can't fight you. Erase our memories and we'll be good to go. And I'm like, really, dude? You're not going to like talk to him first? Try to come up with another solution? Why are you jumping to that?
I think his decision was affected by the fact that wasn't even that was an option. That was an option that seemed to be apparently on the table. It's like, if you can do this, why can't you do this?
But you'd think he'd talk about it a little more first instead of jumping straight to, yeah, erase our memories, we're good.
No, that's a good point.
The solution to this was, let's just do it again, but this time we'll eliminate the clues, which I assume they meant like the moss and stuff, even though we didn't see it. Except, how do they leave no clues? Because now 2 days have passed instead of 1, maybe 3 at this point, really, because it took a long time. And next time they like sync with the starbase or check in, like, they're gonna know that their dates are off and something has happened. So Data saying 30 seconds again at the end was so dumb and ruined the whole plan of no clues. Whereas Data should have said 2 days. You've been out 2 days, blah, blah, blah. This is what happened. And they could have played it off. But instead they went with this totally dumb thing where they're just never going to notice all this time's missing from their life.
That part of that, the 30 seconds thing occurred to me as well. And when you put it that way, that is a very good point.
They left the biggest hawking clue they have, unless they routinely just lose days while traveling in warp around the galaxy. I don't.
It's
think
a comment on the futility of man traveling through space at light speed.
They can just say it was daylight savings time. Something kind of messed up there with one of the things.
Daylight speed saving time.
So they slept through Friday, so they all show up for work the next day, and Data's like, it's Saturday. What are you guys all doing here? And they're like, we thought it was Friday. And he's like, no, it's Saturday. And they're like, oh, our mistake. And then it's glossed over and it's fine. And that solves it all. Yeah. And then for years, they joke about that one day. They all thought it was Friday, but it was really Saturday.
Yep.
Can you guys
until Star Trek Picard, and then in Star Trek Picard, they finally realized that missing day was actually missing, and then the aliens come and kill them all.
Yeah. Data keeps saying, "Will you guys stop talking about that day?" Oh, come on, Data. He always gets so riled up every time we bring it up. Let's bring it up again. And then they all pay the price for bad jokes.
My last thing is an alternate episode of sorts. Okay. And it's that everything happened the exact same way, except that at the very end, Data actually turns to the camera and makes a huge grin. Maybe even winks.
30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, just that shot. That shot where they kind of pan over to him. And it was just like that little hint of like almost a smile, like, phew. He just leaned all the way into it and is like,
Pretty much we just already did this, which is at some point they say there must be some clues. I was like, he said it, which we've said clues many times in this episode of this podcast. Oh, the crew also looked peaceful and they were asleep. That was my only other note. I thought that, but now talking about alternate endings, now I'm like, one of the Groundhog Days could be where Data just starts looking at everyone and like one of them, like Troy just wakes up when he's like real close to her. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Nothing. I don't want to say anything. I can't tell you why I'm being weird and I'm right by you when you're asleep. But anyway, I digress. That's I got nothing else.
One of the other things I guess I'm a sucker for, and I there must be a handful of things here by this point.
Every minute.
Yeah. Is time loop episodes, which of course you have to do in the Star Trek at some point or another. Sure. I don't know, but would this have worked better as a time loop episode? I guess some of the elements were there, but they didn't do the thing where I don't know, could you have drawn it out differently? Made the holodeck wouldn't fit.
I don't know. That may have made it faster paced because this episode was boring.
Yeah, and again, I think you guys are hitting on it because I mean, I don't like you said, Keith. I like the idea that it was just another day kind of thing, but I also like that it wasn't. If we don't figure this out, the entire galaxy, the entire universe will end. Mm-hmm. But maybe there's somewhere in between that brings a little more urgency. where I guess there was urgency. We just don't know it until the end, which again, part of me is like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
The other part of me is like, but I didn't care until then. And I don't want to rewatch it. If I was to rewatch it, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's going to get to the good part. This is the tension is building, because it wasn't. There was no tension building. It was like, what the hell is wrong with Data? But
yeah. That's you spelled it out right there. I think that's going to be the key to this not making it past the middle, probably. So, yeah,
middle.
Yeah.
That's not where I'm starting.
I think you might have tipped Jimmy, you might have tipped your hand there.
I'm starting at the top.
And I tell you why, but I can't.
It was horrible. Number one. Now. Who was your annoyance?
The Paxtons. We don't learn a lot about these guys. We don't care about you. Don't flatter yourself. We don't care. We don't care where you are. We don't care where your planet is. We don't care what you do. Just leave us alone.
We don't care that you gave us Bill, the star of wonderful films and television.
Well, actually, I did write your name that way, actually. But I thought of the Paxton brothers from the NBA, Jim and John. I think they both went to University of Dayton, actually. So
that's a sports ball thing, right?
Or one of them went to Dayton, one of them went to Notre Dame. Yeah, I'm going even deeper into the sports.
Oh,
but yeah, I wrote it like that. Actually,
they went on to make Subway sandwiches and so forth.
I wrote it that way, not like Bill Paxton, but I was told by somebody, it was a long time ago, anyway, they just heard my voice over the phone. They're like, I think you sound like Bill Paxton. I was like, okay. I had no idea. I've never gotten that since then, but.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't hear it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't either. I didn't know I had an accent until then. But anyway.
I'm going to have to go with Data. Mainly for the end, him saying 30 seconds again. Just so dumb. So dumb. He's not that dumb.
That is a really good argument. My instincts were to go with something with Crusher and Alyssa somehow, but
or Geordi for being so cruel to Troy.
Yeah, come on.
Or Picard for not being the least bit compassionate towards Data. There's so many people to be annoyed with this week.
I'll go with Crusher just to mix things up a bit. I think so. Just
Beverly
something about
or Wesley.
Beverly this time.
Okay. Because you were Wesley earlier in the season, so.
Is it because she didn't admit she had a cold? Is that why?
Yep, exactly it.
Crush of Star Trek. We had Agua, but that's the only. We had like McKnight and whatever the Kellogg, but we didn't have any.
They're not going to overcome
Possessed Troy was sort of a different character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sticking with Ardra as well.
Much as I loved Ilea. Still do. First Kambata, rest in peace.
Keith, you stay with Ardra?
Yep.
Ranking the episode. I'm going to be very generous and start with Is It Better or Worse Than The Loss, which is the one where Troy was also having mental things where she couldn't sense people anymore. The two-dimensional space stream.
Oh, yeah.
There's more going on in that one, but this one was far less annoying to me.
Yeah, I think I like this one. I'm going to give this one that much credit. Yes.
Okay, I was going to.
Yeah, Jimmy's
I said I was being generous.
Yeah, I know.
Well, what's above that?
Final Mission. Wesley's final episode.
Oh my God.
Now we're into that rewatchable category because I didn't love that episode either, but it did have more fun, for lack of a better term. Because the mystery at the end, I think the way it's solved and going back in this episode is interesting, but there's so much that isn't before then.
So to me, if the ending doesn't make sense and that invalidates the entire plot, then I'm done with the episode. And that's why I would have put this dead last. The Lost is second from the bottom. There's another one below it, Suddenly Human. I would have put it below Suddenly Human. I would have put it last place.
It is. I mean, it is the end of the episode, so you should be done with it.
What's the next one up? from
Legacy,
Final Mission.
Tashi Yar's sister.
It's not going that high.
Nope. I could go either way on Final Mission. So Keith, as always, we're going to leave it up to you. I could go above Final Mission. I would probably go above Final Mission, but I'm not going to get mad if it's below that.
and Jimmy, what about you? What do you think?
I'm not happy about it being above the loss. I'm not happy about being below the loss. If it goes above Final Mission, I'm going to be pretty annoyed.
There's nothing
I can do about it, but I'll be pretty annoyed.
This season might have the most. So like, well, yeah, we're talking about this episode being up here. I thought it should be here or vice versa because I loved Legacy. I know I love that more than you guys. So I think we're going to have a lot of those where it's like, well, I don't even think it should be that high or that low. So yeah, which is good.
No,
healthy debate.
Yeah.
We're not all the same person that think the same way.
Believe it or not, listeners.
if I were Data, I think I would put it below Final Mission.
But you're not Data, so does that mean you want it above?
No, I think there are more important moments that happen in Final Mission than there are in this.
I mean,
apart from Data lying.
If we were ranking Final Mission just for important moments, it being Wesley's last episode should have knocked up a few spots.
Right.
Unfortunately, it wasn't that strong.
Yeah.
But
okay, we'll put
as a basis for comparison here.
We'll put it number 12 of 14.
So it's number 12 still.
Yep. In my mind, it will always be number 14 of 14.
Well, we'll address it in the final episode or in our wrap-up episode.
In your Final Mission.
Next week, First Contact. We go back in time with the Borg. Oh, no, that's the movie First Contact.
Okay.
Oh.
Star Trek First Contact is the name of an episode of Next Gen and a name of a Next Gen film.
They actually call it Star Trek First Contact?
Well, it's First Contact. First Contact. I'm going to say right now the movie's probably better because that's a great film. But anyway,
I mean,
First Contact.
It's no more confusing than Star Trek Sitting on the Edge of Forever movie, which we all remember. But
it's no more confusing than the fact that Star Trek 2 is Star Trek Space Seed.
Right, exactly.
First Contact, disguised as an alien prior to First Contact, Will's life becomes imperiled when incurred injuries reveal his foreign internal structure to a xenophobic alien population. So Riker's undercover with a species they haven't made first contact with, and his cover is blown.
All right.
I will say it guest stars BB Newirth and George Coe.
This season, as far as our crushes, is
contentious.
Else. Yeah, I can almost tell you right now, spoiler alert, Baby Newirth is going to be my crush of the week. But
she's actually at the bottom of the list of guest stars, so I don't know. Maybe she doesn't have a big part.
Oh, all right. Well,
George Coe is at the top, and there's like 8 guest stars in this episode.
Jane Sabet was my crush of the week, and she was a holographic double.
I mean, I may have to go with George Coe just because he's George Coe. Forget that he's Woodhouse and Archer. All his great career.
Oh my God,
he's got quite a career. But we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Until then, live long.
Avoid the Paxtons and prosper.
And may the 4th be with you.
Keith?
Sorry.
It's not May 4th. It's November.
May November 4th, or remember November.
Try to remember the kind of. I bungled that too. Live long and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?
I don't recall. I'm pretty sure I've seen First Contact, one of these few later season episodes I've seen. I don't recall it being very good. But the second episode we'll watch for the next week is Galaxy's Child, which is Geordi finally meets the real Dr. Leah Brahms. So
I can't believe it's been that long or been this far away from the other episode.
Booby Trap too.
Yeah. That makes me feel better about having to sit through First Contact if I know the second episode I get Leah Brahms back.
Looking forward to these.
We got some really good episodes left this season. Cool. So don't get discouraged by a couple lackluster ones. They said Devil's Due was better than I expected. So
yeah, it was so fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to watch Clue again anytime soon. Clues. I'm good.
Well, as long as you forget that you watched it, then it'll... Which I can tell you this, we're all going to forget it. Next time we're like, let's start with Clues. And Keith and I are going to be like, what was that?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, we just watched it 30 seconds ago.
Beat me to it.